Good afternoon, friends. I, Dr. Devesh Bandil, Associate Professor, Suresh Gyan Vihar University, accredited by NAC A grade. Today, I will discuss about DBA. You know, DBA is the main important person of your DBMS. DBMS, as are well known about the DBMS, like your database management system. Your database management is combination from your database plus management. Database where you will store the data is called the database. Management, you will manage the data. Means in your DBMS you will store the data in your organized manner. You will store the data and you will manage the data in your DBMS. So DBA is the important person of your database management system. He is the whole soul of your database. And now in this lecture, I will discuss about the DBA, that is your database administrator. D for data, B for base, and A for administrator. Now I am sharing my screen. I hope you can see my screen. DBA. So in this lecture, I will discuss about the DBA, that is your database administrator. First, in this lecture during this lecture, I will cover so many topics like your object and outcome of this lecture. What is DBA? Responsibilities of DBA, importance of DBA, types of DBA, functions of DBA, and who is DBA. What are the qualifications for your DBA? DBA stand for Database Administrator. So as per I had discussed about the object and your outcome, the object of this lecture is that concept, to understand the concept of your DBA, and outcome. If we will talk about the outcome of this lecture, to be able to understand about the DBA, about the responsibility of your DBA, and also student will able to what are the functioning of your DBA. Okay, and now I will discuss about the DBA. What is your DBA? So DBA, as per I had told, DBA means database administrator. D for data, B for base, and A for administrator. Your database administrator perform all the activity related to designing, related to maintaining, related to creating and running efficient and cost effective database. Means your DBA are responsible for the all activities of your DBMS. Like if you are designing designing the form of your database, if you are if you want to manage the data, so your managing responsibility of your DBA. If you want to something create in your DBA, in your DBMS, so that is the also responsibility of your DBA. And running the efficient and cost effective database means you will make a database, but your database should be cost effective. So that is the responsibility of your DBA. Your database is the cost effective. Your database is not should be expensive. This is the responsibility of your DBA and your environments, and in which environment your database will prepare, your database will make. So that is the also responsibility of your DBA. So means these are the all responsibility of your DBA. Your DBA is responsible for the all activities like your creating, like your maintaining, like your running efficient, like your cost effective, and like your environment. You know, a database administrator primary job is to ensure data is available, protected from loss and corruption, and easily accessible as needed. You know, you want to make a database, but data is not available for insert in your database. So your data availability is depend on your DBA. If your data is not available, so your DBA is responsibility. He will arrange your the data for insert in your database. If you are having the data for storing in your database, and in any situation, in any condition, if your data will be lost, so that is the also responsibility of your DBA. And from the DBMS you can access the data in easy way, so that is the also responsibility of your DBA. Okay, so means DBA is the whole source in charge of your database. DBA is the responsible for all activities of your DBMS, like your creating, like your maintaining, like your data availability, like your corrupt your data, and like your data should be accessed in your easy way. That is the also responsibility of your DBA. Means that time you can say that whole in charge of the DBMS is the DBA. And now your database administrator in the database management system is an IT professional. If your database administrator is not a IT professional, so your data that time your DBA is not about the create the forms in your database, is not about the how many tables will we create in your database, how to we link the one table from the another table. Okay, how to we identify a unique row. So that's why your DBA should be IT professional who work in creating, maintaining, querying, and turning the database of the organization. As per I had told, if your DBA is not IT professional, professional, so he will not aware about the creating, about the maintaining, about the querying, and about the turning of the database on the organization. That's why your DBA should be IT professional. Okay, and they are also responsible for the maintaining data security and integrity. DBA is also responsible for data maintaining, means how your data will organize. So that is the responsibility of your DBA. And how to be maintain the integrity, so that is the also responsibility of your DBA. This role requires the professional to have good knowledge and experience in the particular DBMS. DBA DBA should have more experienced, more IT professional, and having good knowledge about the database. If your DBA is not about the database management system, if your DBA is not having much more experience about the DBMS, so your DBA will not success. DBA obviously will failure. That's why your DBA should be your IT professional, and your DBA having good experience in your DBMS field. Okay, and the company usage based on the requirements of the company. Okay, and now I will discuss about the importance of DBA. Why your DBA is important? If your DBA is not available for handling your database, so what will happen? That's why here I am talking about the importance of your DBA. You know, your DBA is also called a database management system. The DBA in your DBMS, database administrator, is the key of the DBMS to ensure the data flow and uncorrupted access of data to the organization. You know, DBA is also responsible for how to be your data will flow from the top to bottom level. If your DBA is not aware about the data flow in your organization, so your DBMS is not effective. Okay, that's why your DBA is must compulsory in your database management system because he know about the data flow and also he know about the uninterrupted access of data to the organization. When the DBA function effectively, it means the enterprise is efficient and has sample data storage, access, and scalability. If your DBA is more experienced in your DBMS field, if your DBA having much knowledge about the DBMS, so obviously it means your enterprise is efficient and has simple data storage, accessing data, and your scalability of data. Any errors in the DBMS will reflect on the revenue and cost effectiveness of the company. Okay. Suppose if you are having a database and there are so many errors in your DBMS. So obviously, if your DBMS, your database management system, having the errors, so, so obviously he will reflect on the revenue of your DBMS and cost effectiveness of the company. Suppose if you are having a software of any enterprise, okay, and you know the DBMS is the backend part of your software. If there are if there are some errors in your DBMS which are associated from your organization software, obviously your DBMS errors will reflect on your cost company, on your cost effectiveness of the company. Even small errors like power outage, poor data maintenance, or sheer lack of experience could cost the company hug money. Okay, hence the role of the DBA is to critical to all organization and industry that are the data, IT, and business intelligence dependent. So that's why your DBA is much more important in your DBMS because he is the whole soul in charge of the DBMS. If you are having a database and your DBA having not much knowledge about the DBMS and not have much more experience, so maybe your errors will be exist in your DBMS, and if your errors is existing in your DBMS, so obviously this will affect on your company cost, on your company revenue. Okay, that's why your DBMS should be IT professional, should be much more knowledge about the DBMS and much more experienced. And now I am talking about the responsibilities of your DBA. Means I will discuss about the many works of your DBA. DBA task. I will discuss about the DBA task. First task of your DBA is that software installation and your maintenance. A database administrator often collaborates on the initial installation and configuration of a new Oracle SQL server and your database. The system administrator set up hardware and develop the operating system for the database server. You know, your system admin set up hardware and deploy the operating system for the database server. Okay, operating system, well known about the operating system. Operating system like your software, which is the bridge between your user and your computer hardware. Then the DBA will install the database software and configure it for use. Suppose your software has already made, okay, and you want to installation the software to your user PC. Okay, so DBA is responsible for your software installation and your maintain the software on your PC. That is the task of your DBA. Your DBA will install the software on your PC, and also your DBA will also maintain the software, also will maintain the database on your PC. Okay, and as update and patches are required, the DBA handle the ongoing maintenance. If you are facing the some problems in your PC about your database, so your DBA will solve your problem. Okay, your DBA will handle this problem and this ongoing maintenance. And if a new server is needed, if your user is required the new server, so the DBA handles the transfer of the data from the existing server to the new platform. you know DBA is also responsible for, suppose your user require a new server, so DBA is also responsible for transfer the data from your existing server to the new server. And second responsibility of your DBA is your data extraction, transformation, and your loading. Know the ETL, data extraction, transformation, and loading. Basically, the data extraction, transformation, and loading is called the ETL. Okay, ETL means extraction, T means transformation, and L for loading. Refer to the efficient importing large volume of your data that have been extracted from the multiple system into a database environment. This external data is cleaned up and transferred to fit the desired format so that it can be imported into a central repository. Okay, and that time your DBA is responsible. And next task of your DBA is that specialized data handling. Today's database can be massive and may contain unstructured data types such as images, documents, or sound and video files. So, managing a very large database, that is your VLDB, may require higher level skills and additional monitoring and turning to maintenance efficiency. So, the specialized data handling, the DBA is also responsible for specialized data handling because VLDB may require the high level skills and additional monitoring and turning to maintaining efficiency. And database backup and recovery, that is the main important task of your DBA. If you are not taking the backup and if your DBA don't about how to recover the data, that that time your DBA is nothing. That's why your database backup and your recovery is the main important part of your DBMS. Okay, like for example, suppose in your banking system, your database is so much expensive. 100 millions users are existing in your database. There are so many transactions in your database. Suppose anytime your server have to be crashed. If your server has to be crashed, obviously your bank will suffer because your banking data, your 100 millions users data which are available on your banking database is lost. There are so many transactions which are already available in your server. All data has lost. Okay, that time if you are having the backup of your database, so your bank will not suffer. If your DBA is know about how to recover the data of users of your banking, if your DBA is know about the how to access the all transaction of your banking, that time your bank will not suffer. And if you are not having the backup of your database, if you don't know about the how to recover the data, obviously your bank will face the problem. That's why your database backup and recovery is the main important task of your DBA. Your DBA create backup and recovery plan and procedure based on industry based practice. There is a practice in your DBA he will get the time to time backup of database. Then make sure the necessary steps are followed, backup cost time and your money, so the DBA may have to pursue management to take necessary precautions to preserve data. That's why you know your DBA will take the backup time to time, take the backup day by day. Okay, and your DBA is know about how to recover the data. If your data has lost from your server, so how to take the recover the data from your server. System admin or other personnel may actually create the backup, but it is the DBA responsibility. This is the main important responsibility of your DBA, that is your database backup and your recover the data. In the case server failure or other form of data loss, so the DBA will use existing backup to restore the data. As per I had told, suppose your server has failed. Suppose your server has crashed. If your server has crashed, so your data has been lost. If your data has been lost, so if your DBA having backup, so through the backup, your DBA will restore the data on your server. That's why I am saying the DBA will use existing backup to restore data information to the system. Different types of your failure require different recovery strategy, and the DBA must be prepared for any eventually with technology change. It has become even ever more typical for a DBA to backup database to the cloud, Oracle Cloud for Oracle database, and MS Azure for SQL Server. That's why I am saying database backup and recovery is the main task, is the most important task of your DBA. I'm saying about the most important task, not only particular this task. Only DBA is responsible for only particular this task. DBA is more responsible for. I am saying DBA is the most responsible for this task, that is your database backup and recovery. If you are having the database backup, so you can restore the data. If you know about how to recover the lost data, so your company, your DBA will not suffer. Okay, that's why I had told about the database backup and your recovery. And next is your security. Your DBMS is also responsible for secure the data. If your data is not secure in your DBMS, suppose if you are having if you are having the accounts in your banking, and in many days you have to make the many transactions with the bank, and if your and if your data is not secure in your database in your bank, so obviously you will not open the account in your banking. That's why the security of your data is the responsibility of your DBA. A DBA to know potential weakness of the database, software, and the company overall system, and work to minimize risk. No system is 100% immune to attacks, but implementing best practice can minimize the risk. In the case of security breach or irregularity, the DBA can consist audit logs to see who has done what to the data. Audit trials can also important when working the regulated data. DBA is also responsible for secure the data, and your DBA needs to know the potential weakness of your database software and the company overall system, and work to minimize risk. So security is the another task of your DBA. Authentication. Setting up employee access is an important aspect of the database security. DBMS control who has access, the what type of access they are allowed. A user may have permission to see certain pieces of information, or they may be denied the ability to make change to the system. So authentication is the another prime responsibility of your DBA. Next is your capacity planning. The DBA needs to know how large the database currently, and how fast it growing in order to make predictions about the future needs. Storage refers a database take up in server and backup space. DBAs know that about the data storing capacity. Suppose you are having the hug data, if you are having the large volume of data, so how do we store the data? And okay, so that's why your DBA is know about the capacity planning. And next is your performance monitoring. Monitoring database for performance issue is a part of the one ongoing system maintenance a DBA perform. If some part of the system is slowing down processing, the DBA may need to the make configuration. Okay, suppose your DBA, your database is not giving the best performance. Your database is slow. Suppose if you are accessing the data from the database, yeah, if you are store the data into your database, means if you are taking the any operations with the database and your database is slow, so that's why your DBA may need to make configuration changes to the software and additional hardware. Many types of monitoring tools are available, and the part of the DBA job is to understand what they need to track to improve the system. If your system is giving the performance low, that time your DBA need to additional hardware requirements and maybe your some changes to your software. That is the also responsibility of your DBA, that is your performance monitoring. And next is your database tuning. Performance monitoring slow where the database should be tweaked to operate as efficient as possible. The physical configuration they made the database is your index, and how queries are handled can have a dramatic effect on your database performance. With effective monitoring, it is possible to productivity tune a system is based on your application. And next, I will talk about the troubleshooting. Troubleshooting is the one most responsibility of your DBA. DBA are on call the troubleshooting in case of any problems. If your user having any problem about your DBMS, about your software, so your DBA are on call for troubleshooting in case of your any problems, whether they need to quick restore lost data or correct an issue to minimize the damage. A DBA needs to quickly understand and respond to the problem when they occur. And types of DBA. There are several types of DBA in DBMS. The general DBA is one working with the role of the database administrator for all the data related functions and its data administration. At times, the DBA are hired for a specific purpose, like your database designing, both physical and logical, database administration to the existing system, DBA activity like DBA task, fine tuning of the database, managing, etc. Large organizations have larger data volume, and hence they split the roles of your DBA into specific job roles like your database architect, system DBA, and your system DBA. You know, the DBA task you can include installing the latest version of your applying updates and fixes to the system, OS tuning, that is your operating system tuning, taking care of transaction network processing working in the DBMS, turning and setting operations of the system parameters, ensuring appropriate memory and storage for the DBMS, tweaking, tweaking the DBMS software performance, physical installation of the DBMS. And your database architect, the role is the DBA who implement the design and the new database. The responsibility of DBA including the architect, like your ensuring translation of the data models into the design of a physical database, logical data modeling, access requirement analysis, that is ensuring to optimal design of SQL access and your database recovery strategy, and your analyzing your data access requirements, and your now I will talk about the database analyst. Database analyst, fresh DBA in your DBMS are at times called the DBMS analyst and may be required to perform jobs similar to what is expected of a database architect or a general database administrator. Applications or DBA, there are so many applications of your DBA. Task oriented DBA, your DBA should be your task oriented. The role of the specialist DBA depend on the types of the user in DBMS who are then tasked very specific DBA administrative tasks, especially in large IT professional IT field. Data warehouse administrator, the area that would need to such expertise are query tools, OLTP data warehousing specialized design, data warehousing technology knowledge, cloud DBA. There is the one of the type of your DBA. The cloud is where most organizations are moving to, and this role is in is high in demand. You know, at this time, cloud, your field cloud is in very demand. That's why your cloud DBA is at that time in your very demand. The job role is similar to that of a general DBA, but working on the cloud based. Cloud DBA working and the simple DBA working are same, but in your cloud DBA you will hire the DBA that is based on your cloud based. And functions of database administrator, the DBA in the DBMS primary role is to maintain, implement, manage, recover and optimize database for the enterprise or the DBMS. DBA must be in advisor role when working with the database management. Educational requirements, DBA should be much more experienced in your IT field. DBA should have high degree regarding your database. Your DBA should be certified from the Oracle. How to become database administrator? The DBA in your DBMS is the technical expert who is expected to work with new design and emerging technology. DBA should know about the all new type technology. The educational qualification required would be a bachelor degree in information and computer science from a reputed college, university, and at least some work experience with the database. Who is DBA? The DBA skill are enhanced with specific expertise in area like your MongoDB, Microsoft SQL Server, IBM DB2, MySQL, Oracle, Postgres SQL. They will also need excellent soft skill exposure to OS, familiarize on OS, Linux, ERP package like SAP, software for storage. Salary, the DBA, the DBA salary is very high. The DBA package is very high. The DBA in your DBMS job is an excellent career and is as well paid as gets, considering the average annual pay packet is the USD 19,070. Again, depending on the job location, industry, and your candidate experience, the US Bureau of Labor Statistics range of a salary for the DBA start to 15,000 USD dollar at the entry levels to a high of 13,000 13 lakh 822 USD dollars for the more experienced and efficient database administrator. And now I have to insert it. I have to include some questions in this lecture. And after I study this lecture, a student can give the following answer, which are related from your DBA. And I hope after this lecture, students should know about the what is DBA, why DBA is important, what are the prime responsibility of your DBA, what are the functioning of your DBA, what are the types of your DBA. After I study this lecture, a student should be able to what are the qualifications of your DBA, what is the salary of your DBA. The salary of DBA is depend on your experience in that particular field. In that particular field means in your IT field, in your DBMS field. If your DBA at your initial level get the job, that time your salary maybe your thousand in your $1,000. And if your database administrator is much more experienced, so maybe your DBA salary in your lakh in your lakh dollar. Okay, so I hope you have understood about the DBA after study this lecture. Thank you.